Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Had a couple of technical issues, but we got them all solved now. So we appreciate you coming along for the ride. We got JC on the Titan MR hotline, and we also have Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com will join us momentarily as well. If you missed it, the Ole Miss Rebels are your national champs, and I grew up going to Ole Miss baseball camp, the Jake Gibbs baseball camp, for many, many years. Damn, it's one of the greatest stories of all time. A team that shouldn't even be in there. Yes, I have my Ole Miss shirt on today.
Of all time, baby.
So, have you ever heard of Jake Gibbs, JC?
I think I probably did.
He used to be their coaches. He used to be their coach. He played quarterback and played baseball at Ole Miss.
Yeah,
one of the great Rebels of all time.
Well, I gotta tip my cap to the Mississippi Rebel Nation. They flooded Omaha. It was a home atmosphere for them, and you gotta appreciate. I know the school appreciates their fans the way they came and supported that team. And how about that team? Since the SEC tournament, basically going from an 80-1 underdog to the champions of the world in college baseball. And really, they didn't luck into anything. They just flat out beat people with.
They only lost one time in postseason play.
It was an unbelievable run, and their pitching was just overwhelming everything. And of course, they had some timely hitting with their home runs. I thought Oklahoma was the better hitting team. It surely was not. And I thought that what I saw Mississippi do in that two games they played, you knew they were going to win, QB, when Oklahoma got called out on that interference play and took away the. Yeah, well, I mean, he's got to run the runner cannot run inside the foul line. You just can't. And so he executed the bunt great, and Oklahoma could have had a run on the board with second and third and one out. But as it turns out, 25 minutes later, Mississippi's winning 1-0 with a home run, and I just knew it was over at that point. Just the way that team rode the momentum, the way they scored with 2 outs. Every time they scored a run, it seemed like it was always with 2 outs. They're very clutch, and Bianco should be applauded for keeping that team together through a tough season that ended up with a championship.
Yeah, so Andy says on Facebook Live, Shane representing his third love, Ole Miss, behind his beloved Gators and Josh Allen. Now, people may not realize this. I grew up in Ole Miss. My dad played football at Ole Miss. My mom was a cheerleader at Ole Miss. Yeah. I went to every Ole Miss sporting event there was until about my senior year in high school. So, yes, I have deep, deep roots for the Ole Miss Rebels. Here's an interesting stat, JC, out of that Oklahoma-Ole Miss championship series.
Okay.
There were 16 JUCO players on Oklahoma's roster with 3 Division I transfers. Ole Miss had 9 JUCOs and 2 D1 transfers. And so basically what I'm saying is you don't need all the 5 stars and all that to win. That's the way you build programs nowadays, is go get really good JUCO players that have performed at the collegiate level. You know what they can do, and insert them in your roster. But, yeah, it was outstanding for Ole Miss to win. I saw this tweet last night, kind of cracked me up. He said, the state of Mississippi has won every College World Series since changing the state flag.
Wow. Well, that's that. Okay, there you go. I guess Southern Miss is on deck now.
Yep, so, Southern Miss is up. They got to win it next year.
That's a good program, too. They got to a super regional, but Mississippi shut them out in 2 games. It just, to me, it was just amazing at how well Mississippi pitched the baseball. I mean, they shut teams down. Oklahoma was scoring runs at will before this series, QB, and you just got to hand it to those relief pitchers, but the starters as well. They just, you ask yourself, like, where have these guys been for the last 3 months? And it's just it's an incredible story to be the last team, literally the last team in the field in the baseball postseason, to be the last team standing at the end of the tournament, basically. So I love that the SEC's got, another SEC champion now we have on the board. And I think it's I just think the crowd, it was just amazing to me at how much of an advantage it felt like that the Rebels had.
Speaking of that crowd, it was very similar to this crowd State had in Omaha last year. About the same.
Yeah.
And this is what I've talked about on this podcast for multiple years. When you talk about an atmosphere in baseball, it will never be like there's 4 atmospheres in college baseball that there's nothing like it. LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State.
Yeah. They go all out.
There's nobody else that's going to do it, because I was tweeting with a couple of writers, sports writers who covered the Gators when we won it in 2017.
Yeah.
And a couple of people who were there. And they said the Gators, there may have been 200 Gator fans there. And that's the thing, is these people live and die for their college baseball. And
they do. But you know what? The school itself lives. Mississippi State before last year had been one of only, I think, 3 schools that had never won an NCAA championship in anything. The other 2, Kansas State and Virginia Tech. So when you're in that company, you want to get out of it, and they did. And now here's Ole Miss. And honestly, who can remember the last NCAA championship they won in anything? Who's alive today? So I think it's just the other factor is that these guys won a championship on their campus, and now they've got one. They're going to sell so many shirts. QB, they're going to sell shirts for 6 months. They're going to sell items and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's going to be great for the folks up there in North Mississippi. In case if you've never been in that part of the state, it's something like this is a real. You're going to see Mississippi Rebel baseball national championship stuff everywhere. Everywhere you're going to see it, and it's good to see to me, because Oklahoma's won championships. They've won everything in every sport, but Mississippi dominated their ass, and it was good to see.
Dan says A&M has a great baseball atmosphere. Yeah, I left them off. Definitely.
Well, they do. But
text here on the Titan MR text line from Darius says, "Good morning, guys. Happy Ole Miss won the national championship in baseball, but why do all the reviews have to go through Pittsburgh?" That I don't know. He's talking about the reviews during the game. Don't know the answer to that, Daryl.
Okay.
If you missed it last night, the Lightning season ends. Had a great run. The Avalanche are your Stanley Cup champions. They win the game 2-1. Also, if you missed it in golf, Xander Schauffele wins the Travelers. JC, you're out of our golfers, Webb Simpson and Scotty Scheffler both tied, so we had a great week. But my man Sahith Theegala, poor guy. Again, the last hole cost him earlier in the year. This hole cost him, but
Well, he's really good. He's got a lot of talent. He'll win at one point. Back on the Lightning, this was a team who's only the Islanders and Canadians won more playoff series in a row than Tampa in modern history. Tampa won 11 straight playoff series, and Tampa is, the first team to reach 3 consecutive Stanley Cup finals since Edmonton did it in the early 80s. So this was and look, I don't think it's over for Tampa. Don't think the Lightning are done now. They're going to just wilt away into oblivion. They've got everybody coming back if that's what they want. Salary cap wise, they're not having the same issues they had last year. Remember, they lost a lot of guys off that Stanley Cup team from last year with salary cap issues. So Colorado, take nothing away. They were the best team. They won 2 games in overtime, and they won a 2-1 game last night. So it was a close 6-game series, and Tampa had one of their best players not play. So you got to give Colorado all the credit. They lost last year at Vegas, and Nate McKinnon, who's been in the league for 9 years, finally got a Stanley Cup. He's one of the best players you'll ever see.
He might be the fastest skater I've ever seen.
I mean, unbelievable speed, just so talented. And he finally got his cup, and it's been 9 years for him. So Colorado wins their first one in 21 years. It's their 3rd one in franchise history, but first one in 21 years. They had a great team. And so did Tampa, I think. And I just think it was a great series. But Tampa, if they could have just won one of those overtime games, we probably would be having a game. Well, we would have a game 7. So it's okay. It's all right. Hockey is the Stanley Cup. I think is one of the hardest things to win. It's so hard with salary cap and everything else. So they had their run, and maybe they'll go on another one. Who knows?
Ruzoga State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Speaking with JC on the Titan MR hotline, we'll have Scott Carter. He'll give us some thoughts on recruiting and also, track and swimming. Track and swimming last like year round. They're going to these nationals. So I want Scott to come on to give us a rundown of that. Real quick. What do you got, JC?
I was just going to say, are you depressed now that DeMarcus Bowman has entered the transfer portal?
No, he wasn't good enough. He wasn't even going to play. Dan says, are we going to get a Peachland Dental picks on Wednesday on Wimbledon?
I doubt it.
Yeah, so let's jump into football. DeMarcus Bowman, he transferred to the Gators from Clemson, has entered the transfer portal. It's so funny when I get on Twitter. I'm like, look, people.
Yeah.
Here's what's, and I've said this. That's why we have these podcasts and these sports talk radios. Everybody can voice their opinion. But it is amazing to me how the banker down the street at X Bank, whatever it's called, or the mechanic, or the financial guy down at Cornerstone Financial, all these guys think they know more than coaches.
Yeah.
And what I like to say to them is, if y'all know the game that damn well, get your ass into coaching, right?
Well, what was the argument? I mean, what were they?
No, I'm just saying, because these people get on there. Well, DeMarcus Bowman, why are we letting him go? Blah, blah. Look, he was like 4th on the depth chart. He fumbled every time he touched the football.
Yeah,
yes, he may have been great at Lakeland High School, but he left Clemson for a reason, and he couldn't get on the field at Florida. So just because he was a 5-star doesn't mean he's worth a damn.
Yes, and that is a fact. I mean, the guy is, I don't know. I mean, who's gonna want him out of the transfer portal other than a school probably in a secondary type of.
Well, he can't play on a Division I roster.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing with Toledo or Kent State. But who knows where he's going to end up. What I was going to ask you about was this 4-star O lineman from Orange Park. 24/7 Sports has him ranked as the number 128th ranked recruit overall, who had visited Gainesville twice in the last 2 weeks, but then picked Florida State. What do you think happened there, QB? I mean,
I don't know. Look, let me tell you something. I don't know anything about the kid because I don't follow recruiting. I just get on Twitter and I like to read stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably a good thing that he chose Florida State because I don't know how smart he is. He took his recruiting. He took his recruiting pictures in number 7. Somebody needed to tell the damn kid, you play offensive tackle. You cannot wear number 7, buddy.
Well, maybe he was missing a 7. Maybe he needed another 7 on there, or a 6. But I mean, that's just so awkward looking. Yeah, I don't know. But you got a guy that's come to town twice in 2 weeks, and I'm not sure if it was like, hey, maybe you ought to think about somewhere else, or if it was like, maybe.
Well, JC, here's the other thing. We don't know the whole story.
No,
maybe academically, after they looked into it a little bit more, maybe he doesn't have the academics to get into Florida.
That's right.
There's so many things that go into it. So we got to get to the big fish here. Jaden Rashada, the big-time quarterback, supposedly big-time quarterback out of California, commits to Miami. There's these damn reports all over Twitter that he's getting $9 million. The Gators offered $11 million. Folks, if y'all believe that, I'm going to be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm telling y'all, because that is the most moronic thing I've ever heard in my life. We are not going to offer people that much money. First of all, that's more than half the quarterbacks in the National Football League make. It ain't true. If you believe it, then you're a moron.
I don't believe it either. QB. That's stupid. I don't even believe that.
Here's the other thing.
To be offered half.
If anybody pays these kids over $1 million to play for them, they're crazy as hell.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's like throwing your money at a lottery ticket.
And I've been telling you, it's going to backfire on these teams that are paying these players. Well, again, there is no way they're paying him that much money. If you believe it, you're crazy. Here's the thing. I don't want to pay anybody to come play for us. We will be fine. And these people that on Twitter are talking about it's our administration and our athletic department holding us back. No, it's not, people. It's not. It's called being sensible. And to pay a kid that out of California, first of all, that people think he's a good player. Okay, maybe he is. That does not mean he's ever going to play a snap for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he has some pretty good numbers here as a high school junior. He's an Elite 11 passer. But look, it's such a different world when you get to Division I football from whatever high school you played at. And really, how kids handle the college transition is not a given. It's not a given. And development takes time. Bryce Young went to Alabama and had zero chance of
If
playing.
anybody should be making $9 million, it's Bryce Young. Okay.
Right. But when he went to Alabama, he was nowhere near ready to play like Mac Jones. And it took him 12 months just to be in the environment and in the system to get, in my mind, from what I've heard, comfortable with what Bill O'Brien wanted to do. Because remember, Steve Sarkisian was the OC with Mac Jones in the national title of 2020. He leaves, and now Bill O'Brien's coming in. There's a lot of adjustment time that is required. You can't just hop from one school to another school to another school, take a paycheck, and then go do an appearance at the mall. This is different. This is a different world when you go to college football and Division I. You play with schools like this. And Jaden Rashada might be a great college player, or he might be a garbage man.
I mean, we don't know, and that's what's stupid. And that's why it's all going to work itself out after a couple of years. When he gets there and he's sitting on that sideline for 2 years and ain't playing a down, do you think whoever stroked that check for him is not going to be in Mario Cristobal's ear? And then you know what's going to happen then is Mario Cristobal ain't in charge of his program. Whoever's paying all this money is now the person in charge. G says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel. Shane, how would you feel if you were the Van Dyke quarterback at Miami, knowing the guy coming in getting paid lots of money? Look, Van Dyke is probably going to go in the draft after this year. That kid's still in high school.
He is their starter.
I can tell you, it's the most ridiculous and dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But Van Dyke doesn't have a damn thing to worry about. He's their starter right now,
right?
And he's going to play for them, and he's going to be their quarterback, and he'll be playing against Florida State this year, and he'll be on the field. So, I mean, what Jaden Rashada does or doesn't do is not going to affect him whatsoever. And like you said, he probably won't even be there next year. Marshall
says, didn't the UT guy get $10 million? That's hearsay, Marshall.
Well,
I'm telling you right now. Here's the thing. Just think about the two teams that have just supposedly reported gave $8 and $9 million to two high school kids that are still in high school in the state of California. Think about those two teams: the Miami Hurricanes and the Tennessee Volunteers. Okay. Neither have been relevant in a long time, and they just want to get their name out there, in my opinion. Chris says it's ridiculous. He's not a $9 million. There is not one kid coming out of high school, Chris, that's worth $50,000, in my opinion.
And there's not one kid that's coming out of his junior year that's worth even that, in my opinion. Because I mean, he's still got to be a senior, doesn't he? Doesn't he still have to go to the prom? Does he still have to go do that stuff? Or do they just skip their senior year now in high school, QB? What happens these days? I can't even keep up.
No, a lot of these kids enroll in January, so they don't go to their prom. You know, if you're a baseball player, a lot of these kids.
That's true.
Usually quarterbacks play multiple sports. I don't think they do nowadays. But there's no way I would have been enrolled early, because then I would have not been able to play on, my senior year in baseball. There's no way I would have missed that.
You missed the prom too, QB. You would have missed the prom.
Yeah. Nat says his lawyer, referring to the Rashada out of California, said that they claimed that the Gator Collective offered $11 million, which was false. I can promise you, I'd have no inside information, but I would be embarrassed being a former player if we offered anybody that kind of money.
How you gonna offer some kid $11 million to go ask some local yokel to go pay 10 G's into the booster club? I mean, you're gonna ask fans to come pay out that kind of money. So, but again, this is associated with private donation, right? These are private collectors. This is not the school doing it. So the schools are not paying this money, folks. So we all know that, right? We do know that, right, QB?
What?
That schools don't pay this money. It's not the school.
Right. That's why when I get when you read these tweets about how some of these Gator fans that are not in the real world, they're not blaming Coach Napier and the staff. They're blaming the administration and the school. School has nothing to do with it.
Okay, well that's what I'm trying to make sure folks are aware of. Is the school's not writing checks, folks. They're paying for scholarships, but they're not paying for these outlandish.
Here's what I'm going to say, and then we'll move on, because we're going to get to Scott Carter in a minute.
Okay. All right.
Look, all this nonsense is going to be gone in a year or two. I don't know how it's going to be, but it's going to come down to this, JC, because I've said it from day one. People that are paying or supposedly paying these players this amount of money are usually pretty smart businessmen, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
They're billionaires because they've made good investments and they're smart. Okay. as I've said, let's use Texas A&M, for example. If they supposedly spent $30 million on their recruiting class or whatever the number is, I don't care if it's $3 million. $3 million, $30 million, doesn't matter. $3 million is still way too much. Those guys that put that money together, when Jimbo goes 9-3 or 8-4 this year, and those kids are not producing or not playing, and then the next year it's the same thing. Yeah. These smart businessmen are going to say, why in the hell did we pay these players this money? We're not doing it anymore.
What are we doing?
Just
that's right. I think, and it goes to the point that when the games start, this kind of stuff is going to go away, I think. And I think it's going to go away in terms of our collective thought. And especially when we worry about games now, when we worry about schemes, when we worry about.
And here's the other thing. Just think about, let's say it is true that Jaden Rashad is getting $9 million, $11 million, whatever the hell it is. It's stupid, but let's just say it was true. Okay. Let's say he starts as a true freshman, and he throws multiple interceptions against Virginia Tech. Next week, he throws a bunch of interceptions against Boston College.
Right.
Don't you just think about the amount of pressure on an 18-year-old kid?
It's not right. It's not
going to last. And that's why I think the Gator Nation the fans, look, Billy Napier is a smart dude, and he has a plan. And if people get pissed that we ain't buying players, I hope to the Lord we don't buy players ever. I know we're going to pay some, but this people need to relax.
I think so. And again, nobody's going to think about this when Utah's in town. They're just not. So
here's the other thing. If you're broadcasting a game, JC, let's say you're the play-by-play guy for CBS.
Okay.
Or no, let's go to the ACC network.
All right.
And Jaden Rashada is just playing awful. Mm-hmm. You're going to bring up, well, he's making $9 million to be the quarterback at the University of Miami. I don't think he needs to play better than this.
Yeah, that's just not right either. I mean, this is a lot to put on the plate here, and I just, like you said, I don't believe it either.
No, there's no way.
I don't believe it. I don't think money is that free flowing for something that unknown, because it is an unknown. Every single kid that goes to Division I football is an unknown until he gets there. That is just a fact. And I don't see people tossing money out the window or putting it in a blender and hitting mix. I just don't see that. And so you can have all this nonsense on Twitter, social media, whatever. I would just pass it off. I'd just pass it off. I wouldn't even think about it. Look, Mario Cristobal is thinking about bringing a program back to its glory days. I don't think he's thinking about payroll. I just don't.
Well, he ain't doing it.
Well, I know, but he's got players that are being affected by all this crap. And so what I'm more concerned about, and I'll end on this because I know you want to get to Scott. We've got a season in 22. We've got a season in 23. We've got another season in 24. And then in the summer of 25, we can talk about expansion. That pisses me off. Because if you're going to tease me like that, don't make me wait that long. Okay, that's like saying you can go to the prom with the homecoming queen in 12th grade, but right now you're a freshman. You think I'm thinking about that? I don't know. That's the kind of thing that bothers me. Is just they tease these fans, they tease the boosters, they tease everybody with all this news, and nothing happens. I'm sorry. That's what irks me. It just irks me.
All right. Well, JC, I know we got a lot of people say we got back in next year. It's not our issue. There's nothing we can do about it.
Facebook. I wish somebody would. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Maybe these all these boosters and stuff need to pay Facebook something to get the damn thing working correctly.
The metaverse.
We're going to go talk to Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com.
Hopefully.
Have a good day. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. Go get your Wimbledon picks down.
All right. Yeah. Okay. See you there.
We're going to take a quick time out. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker M.M. Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Dave & Buster's, Regal Cinemas, Nike, Palmetto Moon, Medici's, and the HBC's restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, where every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 2:30, you can get the hottest brunch in town. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're going to head to the Titan MR hotline now. We're joined by senior writer, FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. Good morning, Scott. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, Shane. Still drinking my coffee, man, but stayed up a little late watching some sports and watched the College World Series yesterday. So I see you must have watched it too.
I did. I was telling JC, he laughed at my shirt, but my dad played football at Ole Miss. My mom was a cheerleader there. I grew up going to every Ole Miss sporting event until about my senior year, and then kind of spread my wings to other schools. But I grew up going to the Ole Miss baseball camp every summer. So it was awesome to see. Dude, I think you tweeted the last 5 champions. Obviously, we know the SEC's had a lot of success, but it was who was it? It was Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt in 19, of course, Florida in 17. Then the last 2 years, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. The only one of the last 5 to sneak in there outside the SEC was Oregon State back in 19.
If Arkansas catches that foul ball by the first baseline, they win the national title. So Oregon State would not have. So the SEC is just dominating in baseball. And real quick, speaking of that, the Gators had a bunch of, like I said, I don't tweet a lot, Scott, but I get on there just to try to get some information.
Yep.
And it can be exhausting, some of the stuff you read. Of course, I think the Gators have had 7 baseball players enter the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
People think the world's ending. Look, kids want to play.
Yeah.
And if they have an opportunity to go somewhere else, that's fine. Just because they leave your program doesn't mean there's something wrong with your program. Just talk briefly about some of the, your thoughts on some kids going elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the guy at Florida's had 7, and really, Shane, if you've looked at the Gators program under Kevin O'Sullivan, it's not at all unusual before the transfer portal era to see 8, 9, 10 guys not on the roster the next year who were eligible to be. He's always had a lot of transfers. That's just the way he conducts the roster. And it's kind of funny because now it really is free agency. I mean, it kind of adds something that's interesting to me. I mean, if you follow pro sports, I mean, this is what pro sports is, where your team's roster is going to look very different most years from one to the next. And there's some good and bad in that. I think with this Gators team this year, I mean, you look at the names who have left. I mean, only a couple, I wouldn't say surprised me, but Matt Gassetti, the catcher, and Chris Armstrong, the veteran DH first baseman. They're looking elsewhere. They've already added a couple of guys, and they'll add more. Just the new era. But yeah, I think the Gators will be fine going into next year. What you just opened the show or the segment with there, talking about the College World Series and SEC's dominance. The SEC, man, that you got to rework and have a roster that can compete in the SEC every season to even think about a national championship now. So, I mean, there's just going to be constant retooling, and it's part of the new world, Shane, like it or not.
Yeah. And I had this stat that someone put up before the Ole Miss Oklahoma series started. And I mentioned it to JC. Oklahoma's roster this year was made up of 16 junior college players and 3 transfer portal guys. Ole Miss had 9 new JUCO players and 3 D1 transfers. So that's how you build your program now.
Yeah, it really is. And, I think Sully even has admitted that maybe he didn't dip into that transfer portal as early as he probably should have last year. He's always built his teams with just top flight prep talent. Guys who either were going to play at the University of Florida and develop or sign and play professional ball right away. He's not taking a lot of mid-range guys. And I mean, he'll still continue that philosophy, but as you missed out on maybe a couple of guys you have in your signing class who do go into the MLB draft and sign, well, you can quickly erase any concerns there by dipping into the junior college ranks. And he's done that here and there over the years, but I think you'll just see that more. You'll see more guys like BT Riopel, who came last year from Coastal Carolina and is still kind of weighing some options on whether or not he's going to come back next year. That is the new way. It's like I don't know. It's like MLB Junior. You're going to see a lot of transfers, man.
Yep. Dan asked a question here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. Scott, Sully and Tim Walton aren't going anywhere, are they? I mean,
there's always shooters out there. We've known for the last few years. I think one year Texas was very interested in Tim Walton. I know Sully. There's always rumors about him. Whether last year it was LSU or this year Clemson.
Has Clemson hired anybody?
That's a good question. I don't know if they've hired anybody or not as of this moment. I haven't followed that too closely, but I don't expect any movement there. There's no signs of anything going on I know of. I think these two guys realize they're in a really good place. They can do what they want in their careers at the University of Florida, and that's to compete on a national level each year. They have the resources. Both of them have, new stadiums or revamped stadiums in the last 2 or 3 years. And, they're in the SEC. I mean, at this point, if you're in the SEC, it's almost crazy to leave the SEC unless you get told to leave, because they're dominating everything. So,
yeah.
They're getting ready to add Texas and Oklahoma. So you have Oklahoma, who just, was in the national championship series. And of course, Texas is riding high after a weekend, getting Arch Manning. So, I mean, I think it's only going to get stronger, Shane.
Yeah. I thought if anybody came after Tim, I thought it would have been Texas A&M, but that did not happen. Robert says Amanda Lorenz is leaving the softball program. Well, she's a volunteer. She's playing in that pro league right now. I don't know where she's going, but she's been being a volunteer coach. So she was not employed by the UAA.
They've had a lot of those, and it's a great chance for a young player who just graduated, to get some coaching experience and then to be able to still play. And, but Amanda, she's one of a kind. She's a great resource for that program.
Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Doreen Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker M.M. Parrish, will provide you with fast, friendly, and reliable service. Give her a call today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. Speaking with Scott Carter on the Titan MR hotline, a bunch of people said Clemson did make a hire. Yeah. So Sully ain't going anywhere. Tim Walton's not going anywhere either. All right. Before we get to track and swimming, which never ends, it's like year round. I just got a text on the Titan MR text line from an anonymous texter. I heard we got outbid by $2 million on our shot. Look, I've already said my piece earlier, Scott. Florida did not offer $9 million. Florida did offer $11 million. I don't even know if we offered $2 million. We ain't going to get into the buying players. I'm telling you people that. And I sure hope we don't, because it's going to work its way out. These idiots that are paying this kind of money, they're going to fall flat on their face, because you don't know if these kids are worth a damn. It's crazy.
I've been telling this story that I heard many years ago. It was back when the Southwest Conference in the 1980s, when, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and basically, they were cheating left and right out there. And so the boosters all got together in Dallas in the basement of this hotel and say, all right, guys, we've got to get this under control. We can't keep wasting all of our money like this on these kids. And that's kind of what we've gone back there, if that's what's happening at some of these schools. But yeah, I mean, these guys, I'm all for them getting rewarded some financially. And if you are a guy who can command that kind of money, and I don't think there's going to be many, there's very few, but I think over time, I mean, you can look back on these investments if that's what's happening and the stories come out down the road, like it's going to be such a waste of resources and time. I mean, you've got to it's got to be the old fashioned way, Shane. A guy's got to obviously have some talent, but is willing to come to a school and be coached and improve and work. And if that's not going to be the formula for the guy's success, it's going to doom your program. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see. But I'm like you. I don't think you got to worry about the Gators getting in the. I don't even know if any of these rumors are true. First of all,
that's the thing. Whoever supposedly, it doesn't matter if they paid that kid $2 million to go to Miami.
Yeah,
that person needs to get their head checked.
Yeah,
because I swear to you, he may never play a down for that school. And it's going to backfire and it's going to all work itself out. But it's ridiculous what's going on right now. And here's the other thing I said earlier, Scott. You don't hear Ohio State. You don't hear Georgia. You don't hear Alabama talking about what they're paying to get recruits, right? I don't see it anywhere. It's Tennessee and Miami, two schools that haven't done a damn thing in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they're desperate for some success. Their fan bases are obviously hungry, and they put it this way: if your fan base is excited over,
oh, I think I don't hear Scott. Did he lock up on me? We lost Scott. Okay, all right. Well, let's do this real quick. Let's take a quick time. He's back. Scott's back. Well, he was back. All right, we got some technical difficulties as usual. We don't know what's going on with Facebook. So, are you there, Scott? All right, let's take a quick time out and see if we can get him back on because I want to ask him about swimming and track. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping buyers throughout Gainesville, North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. A few more minutes with Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. All right, they got the World Championships going on in swimming and track. Let's start. We got a Facebook Live here from Andy up in Chicago. He says, I can pull up. During this past week, don't you think Bobby Fink has established himself as the greatest long-distance swimmer in American history? He has to be the most underrated athlete on campus.
Well, he certainly put his name in there as one of the greatest American long-distance swimmers. I'm going to have to confess, I would have to look up to see some of the others before I make a statement that he's the best all time. I think we can say safely, Shane, he's the best male long distance from Florida.
There's no doubt about that.
He won big in Tokyo and won silver at the World Championships the other night. And, this is a guy who finished up his eligibility at Florida back in the spring. Had some COVID issues during one of the big meets of the year at the SEC, but he's obviously healthy now. getting back into form. And he's a guy that we will keep a close eye on, heading into the 2024 Paris Olympics. And he's a Florida guy, from St. Pete, Tampa Bay area. So a lot of storylines around him, a lot of interest around him.
Yep, and obviously Caleb Dressel did well. Katie Ledecky, who's kind of we kind of rented her as a Gator so far.
Right.
Track World Championships are going on a track. Grant Holloway's moved on, but good gracious, it seems like we have tons of athletes moving on.
Yeah, these sports, when you win on the level that Mike Holloway has done at Florida in the last decade, what is it, 10, 12 national championships now? Guess what? When you win at that level, Shane, you're going to have a lot of people go on to the international stage and do big things like Grant Holloway. And, Grant, he at the championships out in Oregon, getting ready for the world championships, he advanced. He didn't even run the final of the 110 hurdles because he already got a wild card. But he's going to be a favorite at the world championships. And, Joseph Fahnbulleh is a guy who just won the 100 and 200 at the NCAA championships. He's going to be a threat in the Olympics in 24, already has a medal from the 2020 games. The list goes on there. Those are a track. And I just find it, it's hard sometimes when you're talking to mostly fans who care most about football.
Well, more computer issues.
Yeah, and these guys live in the same dorms as Kyle Trask and those guys. So pretty impressive list, Shane.
Yep, no doubt about it. Scott, before we let you go, I want you to hear This Day in Sports. It's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. Beat the summer heat and schedule your air conditioners tune up today, keeping you chill in the Florida heat far away. Give Comfort Temp a call, 352-376-2366. The reason I'm bringing this up, maybe you'll understand what I'm saying. 2013, the NBA draft, UNLV power forward Anthony Bennett is the first pick overall by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. I don't know if Anthony Bennett played a season for the Cleveland Cavaliers or anybody else in the NBA. He was the first overall pick. My point being, the NBA has a lot of film to watch. They have camps that kids go to, and they spend a lot of money on evaluating players. And they obviously made a mistake drafting Anthony Bennett. Have you ever heard of Anthony Bennett, Scott?
I mean, I'd forgotten about him until you mentioned him there. Let's just say he did not turn out to be LeBron James.
Well, yes. But my point is, and it's the same way in the NBA. I mean, in the NFL. Think about Jamarcus Russell.
Oh, yeah.
He was a first-round pick, could throw it 70-something yards, which people get excited about. You never throw a ball 70 yards, people, ever. And now we got people that want to pay 17 and 18-year-old guys that they know nothing about $8, $9 million to go play college football. It's the dumbest damn thing I've ever heard. So anyway, that's why I brought that up.
No, I totally agree with you. Like you said earlier, Shane, this is going to correct itself over time. And I think while the Tennessee guy and his contract information, I think a lot of that's legit. I also think a lot of the stuff we're hearing is probably not even close to accurate. The bottom line is coaches, they want guys who they can develop and can help them win and who buy in. And if you got a guy who's already kind of negotiating hard with you before he ever signs a scholarship paper, I mean, that's going to scare a lot of coaches off. And rightfully so. I don't know. This guy who just signed with Miami, good luck to him. Maybe he turns out to be great, but we know for a fact that there's going to be more failures than not. And a lot of the guys who do great at these 7-on-7 camps, and they have these promoters and recruiting writers who are selling them like the next great thing. Guess what? If you're smart and intelligent, you know how that is. You know the game. No, you're not fooling anybody. The coaches certainly aren't fooled.
Look, and I'm hoping Anthony has a really good year. But people on Twitter got so excited that at the Manning camp he threw it 70-something yards.
Yeah,
that means nothing, because you never, ever throw a ball 70 yards unless it's the last play of a half or the last play of a game. A deep ball is thrown at 44 to 48 yards. They've done studies on this. So
I kind of chuckled at some of that reaction too, Shane, because I'm thinking there was some excitement about that, or like it was a newsworthy event. And I'm thinking, if you're really a Gator fan, you should be a lot more excited about the way Anthony threw the ball at LSU last year than throwing 70 yards at that camp.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like I said, you will never, ever throw a ball usually over 55 yards in a game. So, Scott, good stuff as always. We appreciate your time. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but have a good day, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you, Shane.
All right, that's Scott Carter joining us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully our smart folks can get it all figured out. But that's today's show. We will see you tomorrow with Buddy Martin. Take care.
Trying to get the fans fired up. 2nd down and 10. Matthews rolling to his right, in trouble. Can't find anyone. Now he throws it for Harrison Houston, who makes the catch. He's in the open field. Harrison to the 20. They're not going to catch him. Touchdown, Gators!